recorded an after party, a Sight and Sound after party last week before we recorded the world's worst Sight and Sound Weekly episode. And, I sat in the chair that I typically make you sit in, and it was just horrible.
Why do you even own that chair? Owning it is a crime against humanity.
I bought that chair because when my buddy Michael, came over to podcast, it was the first time I'd ever podcasted with another person in the room, and I didn't have a chair, so I went and bought that chair, like on the spot.
Okay, it makes a lot more sense if you bought that chair for Michael Gilkison. Yes, now it makes a whole lot more sense.
And I've just kept it for a long time. I had never sat in it. I use it when other people come over to podcast. I use it when my buddy Carl, a.k.a. Curl, comes over to record music with me. And, I mean, my ass was killing me.
Yeah, it's not a great chair. And you have it great when you come to my house because you get to sit in the recliner. Because my desk chair is actually not that great either. There's not a lot of padding left. Actually, it's so matted down that I'm actually sitting on the ends of the bolts from underneath. Like if I sit up, you can see the bolts sticking out.
Really?
Yeah.
You kind of like it, don't you?
They're not actually. No, let me rephrase. They haven't like broken through, but they're poking up.
Are they going into your anus?
Oh, you think there's just one bolt in the middle of the?
Yeah.
No, it's they one underneath each leg.
Okay. Well, I actually
you get the nice recliner at my house.
But see, in my mind, that's a nice chair, and I appreciate you
it's a very nice
giving
chair.
me that chair to record with. But
I might take it back.
I do think it's a little counterproductive. It makes for the potential to be a little too relaxed on a podcast. And I felt on the last Sight and Sound Weekly, me personally, was a little bit too relaxed. It was warm. It was the chair was comfortable. I drank a warm coffee.
That's not a good excuse. You've done so many podcasts in that chair before then.
But not under the rest of the circumstances.
And even I was low energy, and I was under different circumstances.
I keep it very cold in my recording space.
I don't know why.
Because I think it makes you more alert. I think when you're warm, your body temperature gets warm, you get a little sleepy.
I'm sure that's
cozy.
Science. But do you really think if it was warmer in here that I would just... Yeah, the Gorillaz, the new songs. Like, do you really think it'd be that big of a difference?
It could. I don't know.
That's
just,
science.
I'm just trying to make sure all of the potential circumstances are accounted for.
What you just brought up, that's science. That's what teachers apply in their classrooms. Is it?
That's right. Restaurants as well.
Oh, restaurants do it too?
Restaurants do certain things. I
figured it'd be the opposite. I thought a restaurant would want to be warm and cozy.
No, I'm not necessarily saying that's the specific thing about keeping the restaurant cold, but I know that there's certain things that restaurants do with lighting and the paint color that make you more hungry. That's what they tell
McDonald's, red and yellow. Did you know that color combination makes you hungry?
I didn't
science.
Know that.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Is this bro science? Are we do you know what bro science is?
Bro science.
Yeah.
Things that men just make up?
No, bro science is like, it's the type of stuff that you think you hear, or you only hear part of it, but you recite it as if it's like that's what it is.
Well, let's see. What else is red and yellow? Hardee's, Carl's Jr.
Is it?
Bojangles? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're right, I guess.
Burger King's logo for a long time was just like the yellow bun, and Burger King was in red.
The Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. The Washington racial slurs. The Wendy's is red. It's not yellow. It was yellow. Their cups used to be yellow because I remember when it said Biggie. No, wait, that was McDonald's.
Okay.
No,
well,
McDonald's was supersized. Wendy's was Biggie, and it was red and yellow.
Did you know that?
Case in point.
Did you know that black and yellow are the most recognizable color combinations to the human eye? That's why most caution signs are in yellow and black and whatnot.
Did you know the most satisfying color combinations are blue and orange, and that's why movies are tinted in those colors?
I didn't know that.
Every Michael Bay movie every single frame is either a blue frame or an orange frame, or a combination of the two.
So you have an orange mic cover right now. Maybe I should put on the blue one. I have a blue one.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do.
If we were doing a video podcast, that'd be very satisfying to our viewers.
Potentially. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need to buy like some lighting filters for that as well. Regardless, look, I wanted to start this off.
Hell of an intro.
I wanted to start this off because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I'm in the need for a vacation. I'm in the need to not an actual vacation, like going on a trip, recharge my batteries. We've been working hard. On a trip, you don't take vacations. And when I say vacations, I mean not one where you just don't go to work and you sit in your house and watch
not
Game
a
of
staycation.
Thrones. You took a quote-unquote vacation where you just didn't go to your job and your car died and you watched Game of Thrones for
I
an entire
had
week.
to take that. That wasn't a choice.
That's
I had
right.
to do that. I had to use up my time before the fiscal year ran out.
When's the last time you went on a vacation to a destination?
May of 2015?
Okay, and where did you go? Was that for Josh and
It
Mary
was
Beth's wedding?
Destin, Florida.
That's a while ago.
It was great.
It's like 2 years ago.
It's a great trip.
Okay, when was the last time before that?
Matt Wilson paid for everything I did for no reason. He was just like, "Here, I have money. I'll cover it."
Don't I do that sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a different situation because I could actually reciprocate if I wanted to.
I want Matt on the podcast so bad. He is the big, for those that, well, actually most people don't know who we're talking about. Explain Matt Wilson to people.
His personality?
No, don't explain like what he does as his job, how we know him.
So how I knew him, and this was like 10 years ago when I first met Wilson. Matt Wilson was the man who booked the best shows in Lexington, Kentucky.
That's right.
And he made a name for himself. Everyone knew who Matt Wilson was.
Yeah.
He was the guy.
We worked together quite frequently.
Yeah, he was the guy with the truck, and he had all this PA equipment and sound equipment. He was booking these shows.
He had better sound equipment than most music venues did.
Yeah, he sure did. So it was always because I'm. How old is he compared to you?
He is
how much younger?
Older than me. He's like a year older than me. So
okay.
about
so he's like maybe
6
5.
years.
Yeah, he's about 5 years older than me. But
I think we graduated the same year though.
Oh, did you? Anyway, it was always a goal for my band to be booked on a Matt Wilson show, and years went by before I even became his friend. That was the attitude that I had, was we got to get on a Matt Wilson show, and he kind of got bigger and bigger and actually started touring with bands, very big bands,
huge bands.
Yeah. So Motion City Soundtrack, Thrice.
He was the 1975's tour manager.
Yeah.
I mean, he
toured with Civil Twilight when they were doing a TV circuit. Like he was on Jimmy Kimmel, not physically on camera.
He's going on a amphitheater tour with Deftones, Thrice, Rise Against. Like that's the big summer tour that he's doing. But nonetheless,
so he went from booking shows for us to touring with those bands you just named.
Yeah, I mean he's one of my longest friends. Like I mean I've known him since I was in high school, really, and we book shows together. But he's a character. I mean he is just a character. You know how you grew up knowing people who quote unquote had ADHD? Like they were diagnosed with that, and it was just like a parent's excuse for a kid that had a lot of energy.
He is the definition.
He literally has ADHD. I mean,
he's all over the place.
I've been in mid-conversation, like deep conversation with him, and he would just leave.
The greatest example of that was us eating and drinking before going to see Jurassic World. And on the way to Jurassic World, we had some kind of combination of what would it be like to actually film our reaction to Jurassic World. And with 5 minutes left before we saw the movie, he took a swift left turn and went into Best Buy and bought me a GoPro. And I'm like, dude, we have to go see Jurassic World. It's about to come on. But he was like, nope, let me buy you a GoPro first. And that's what he did.
Also in that same sequence, like when we were drinking in a bar before, he like went to the bathroom and came back with some girl. Do you remember that? There was just like some girl there. He was also a part,
like a friend of, not like a sexual thing, like it was just a friend of his.
Yeah.
And he was just like, okay, well now we're here with this person.
Yeah, and he was actually a part of he was involved in one of the most absurd nights that I've ever had in my entire life. I'll tell it another time.
All fair?
But,
Okay.
He was dating a girl who was roommates with the girl I was dating with at the time. And
I don't know if I know this story.
yeah. So we would hang out in a non-music setting quite frequently.
Where did we? How did we get here? You said you wanted Matt Wilson on the podcast because why?
Because he was involved in the last vacation you went on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So when was the last vacation you went on before that?
I have no clue.
See, and this is what I'm saying. You need a vacation. You need a vacation.
I don't have anybody to go on vacation with.
Well, maybe one day we'll go on a vacation together, but you can't go on the one that I'm wanting to go on.
Can we go to Houston?
No. So the other reason I'm bringing this up too, my birthday is in September, which is nowhere near right now, but it will be my 30th birthday. I've been planning like something nice, something fun to do for my 30th birthday. At one point, I wanted to potentially travel to Europe. That was way too expensive. Not doing that. Then I thought I wanted to go on some other trip. Not doing that either. All I want for my birthday is for you and Kayla to go to a music festival in Cincinnati with me for 3 days. That's the only thing. I only turned 30 once. By the time another milestone birthday comes around, we probably won't even be friends because we will have had like a falling out or something.
Right.
And
a divorce.
And yeah, I just want you guys to come to this music festival with me because I think you all will, especially you, because you
have to listen to music for 3 days.
I think you guys and especially you will have a transformative experience because you can. I don't know. You can see a fucking picture on the wall and it would change your life. Like you went to Florida and came back and you were like, this has changed me. This has been
a great fucking trip.
We watched
had a ton of fun.
Watched an Anthony Bourdain about Houston. You wanted to move there immediately. You went to a place called Nancy, Kentucky for 2 days, and because it was something different than where you normally go, it's like you talk about how it's your paradise.
You
want to go
oversimplify every because you don't know how it was, and in there the surroundings, the people you're with, they made a huge difference in all of those trips. So you're oversimplifying all of it.
But my point is, you don't get out enough, and so every time you do get out, it's the greatest thing ever. Which might be the way to go. That might be the best way to look at things. Is that a fair assessment?
Thank you.
Is that a fair assessment though?
I like it.
You don't get out a lot, do you?
No.
And you're fine with it?
I mean, I'm not fine with it, but I don't have...
Okay.
I don't have opportunities
to
you go places with people.
Will you go to
I'm not going to go by myself.
Will you go to the music festival with me?
Sounds awful.
I know it does.
3 days of just standing, listening to music.
See, guys, listen. This is what I have to deal with. This naysayiness. And you know what?
It's 3 days.
It's not about you. It's for my birthday. It's all I want you to do. It's all I want you to do. We get to see Jared Leto.
That's like
perform live.
That's like me saying, like, if I have a destination wedding.
I'll be 30. I'm only 30.
That's like if I have a destination wedding and I'm like, it's not about you. Come to Houston, Texas.
This is the only thing
where I'm getting married.
Who was the only person that brought you a present at your birthday?
You.
That's right. So now you have to come to this music festival in Cincinnati with me.
I don't know. Now that just means I have to get you a present for your birthday.
That's the only present that I want.
Well, we'll figure something out.
I want you to go to this with me. In fact, I told you about this, and you said that you were down with it.
Yeah, but I didn't realize it was 3 days of standing and watching music.
It's not 3 full days. It's like 3 afternoons, essentially. Have you ever been to a music festival before?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not that bad. And it's really good bands. And like I said, you get to see Jared Leto play.
I don't give a shit. 30 Seconds to Mars?
Yes.
All right, I'll go.
See? It's always about him.
I don't give a shit about Jared Leto, but I'd like to see 30 Seconds to Mars.
1975?
I'd like to see them.
Drum, G-Eazy, Muse.
Is Amir going to be there?
Yes.
Are they actually?
No. That would be great. Flogging Molly. Anyways.
I don't care about them.
Let's get into it. We're gonna switch things up this week. We're not gonna start off with music.
Thank God.
We're kind of playing to the crowd a little bit. We're on this SK Plus thing, whatever that is, and and
great point. What is SK Plus? It should be called Schmo Plus.
That's right. That's where we're being distributed on YouTube. A lot of people listening to us potentially for the first time, but because it's sort of like the movie realm, we're going to kick it off with movies. You guys are
You're
listening.
Bringing in the movie segment. This is weird.
Well, I'm just saying that's what we're going to do.
That was the criticism of last week's episode.
Here's my favorite thing. Are you ready for my favorite thing about this movie segment? Is that so we record this on a Sunday. It'll actually go up on a Monday, but if you're listening to it on SK Plus, it's out on a Wednesday. But I just have to put the flag down right now. We are going to get to talk about the Justice League trailer before movie talk. So go ahead, go ahead and bring in the segment. How would you do it if I wouldn't have just done that?
I don't have a way.
You're low energy.
Okay, no, I'm not. I got my pamplemousse.
Step it up.
I've got my pamplemousse here. I'm drinking.
Do I need to put on a mirror? Do I need to hit pause and put on a mirror?
I would. I do want to talk about this Justice League trailer. Because. We hate talking about DC on this podcast.
No, you do.
No, we both do. Every time
I actually like it.
Every time
have fun.
You have fun?
Yeah.
I don't like to have the same kind of conversation on the show. So whenever DC gets brought up throughout the week, we try to avoid it so much, in fact, that we had a segment just about Joe Carnahan because we weren't going to talk about the Batman that week. So DC's frustrating to us.
Yeah.
And there's only so many times that we can say it. But this was something different. This wasn't a story about a project failing. This is a project that is in production. It's about to be released in November. It's coming out within months. Brand new Justice League trailer. When was the last one? Comic-Con?
No.
Has it been that long?
No.
When did that come out?
Here's what I remember. Batman vs. Superman came out.
That was last March, a year ago.
Right. And
actually, a year ago this weekend, as a matter of fact.
And I believe, I might have my timetable off, but I think the extended cut had come out, and I remember that they invited a bunch of media to the set.
Yeah,
of
the set visit.
And it was not soon after I think that extended cut came out.
So it was the summer. It was last summer. So
yeah.
Around Comic-Con. No, that was Comic-Con. It aired during Comic-Con because they also aired the Wonder. Yeah, it came out at the same time as the first Wonder Woman trailer. It was Comic-Con. So the second full Justice League trailer. Let's get into it.
The full Justice League trailer, yeah. Well, I guess the last one was pretty full.
No, the first one, I would call the first one a teaser.
Okay.
This is the first full trailer. I'm a little underwhelmed. I don't know what to think of it. And actually I do know what to think of it. I know a lot of my thoughts actually. But
okay. Why did you frame it?
I don't know. I have no idea. Oh, I'm getting nervous. Because so many people, now that we're on Schmo Plus, I'm afraid that more people will yell at me for my movie opinions.
How do you think they're going to think about my movie opinion?
Especially when it comes to DC. I love that when you were on Godline Entertainment.
Yeah.
Wiley's podcast.
Yeah.
He called you a movie fanatic. I laughed.
And
then you said, yeah, you could call me a movie fanatic. I was like,
okay, let's just address this.
You have the bling ring in your iTunes.
Let's just address this. So there's movie fanatics like you and like Wiley and people, a lot of people who want to be movie reviewers. So they go see every single movie, they buy every single movie so that they can have their fresh take. And then there's movie fanatics that keep up with it just like I do. Maybe I don't go see every single movie in theaters. Maybe
you're interested in the topic of movies.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I keep up with it. I'm somewhere in between. I did that thing on Sight and Sound Music where I kind of broke down a music fan, and I'm somewhere in between, like I think a diehard movie fan and a casual movie fan. I'm somewhere in the middle.
Okay, fair enough. I just thought it was funny. I like to make fun of my friends. So, back to the Justice League trailer.
Winter Soldier's the most overrated Marvel movie. Hot take. Hot take.
So
it's not bad.
So one of my friends, my personal friends on Twitter, I was tweeting out my issues with the trailer. He says, it's easy to find the negatives when that's all you're looking for. So I'm going to have to do it. I have to preface everything that I'm about to say.
Who was this? Call it out.
My friend Jacob, you don't know.
Okay.
I don't want Justice League to be bad. I love Ben Affleck's Batman. I like certain things about the trailer, and I hope the movie is great because I'm not an idiot.
I walked away from the trailer excited about something I didn't think I'd be excited about.
Me too. I never understood Ezra Miller as the Flash.
Yeah.
That's the one positive I'll start off with. That was the second most important thing to me. I was really excited about that.
Me too. Walking away from it, not only was I looking forward to seeing Ezra Miller as the Flash in this movie and seeing the Flash, because we've never really gotten an on-screen portrayal of the Flash in a movie form. Obviously, there's the television show and the CW, but to see the aesthetic of it was really fucking cool.
It was, yeah.
And it makes me excited for a potential Flash movie, etc.
And so far, it looks different enough, from the TV show that I wonder if people are going to be confused. The people that are
that's
asking.
my biggest point of this whole thing. Are you ready?
Oh, I already know. Yeah, go ahead.
My biggest issue with this movie this trailer and after watching it, I don't know why we are even supposed to care about this movie. Because, okay, let's just go down the history here. Superman, Man of Steel. That's the only standalone movie we've got. Allegedly, I know he's not, but allegedly he's supposed to be dead in this film. He doesn't even show up. Then we have an old-ass Batman. We have no idea what he's gone through. We don't know what his motivations are really. All we have is a movie that he was split with Superman on in Batman vs. Superman. We have a Wonder Woman movie that we will have seen. So, and all these other characters that we don't like. When we saw Avengers, we had so many standalone movies to actually, care about what their motivations were, what they had gone through. Tony Stark, we knew about the stuff that he was dealing with. All we saw were people in costumes flying around in scenes that look cool, which is exactly what most Zack Snyder movies are.
So, two things. I have a point on each side of the coin. What you just described and what we're about to get, those problems would have been even worse if we had just gotten George Miller's Justice League Mortal like 8 years ago, because that would have come from nowhere.
Yeah.
We would have just already had the Justice League without any solo movies. But I think I would still be more excited about. I mean, I see what you're getting at. I totally get your point. It's fascinating that you bring up the fact that we still know nothing about Ben Affleck's Batman. We know nothing about him. Nothing.
Yeah.
Except that his parents died, which is what we always
Robin's dead.
Yeah.
But we don't know what
we
Robin.
We don't know which Robin. We don't know how exactly. Yeah. I mean, we know by who, but it's a great point. And the fact that we're getting a Justice League movie means we will wait even longer to get more from his Batman. But we will get a lot from all these other characters because they have to introduce Aquaman and the Flash and Cyborg to us for the first time. And I think Snyder even said that Cyborg is actually the heart of this movie. Based on the fact that his self comes from the technology of the mother boxes, the ones that also bring about the parademons that we saw in this trailer as well. So I can kind of see him as the backbone. All great points. I think that that's part of it. That's part of just because I don't think I care enough about the characters yet. Yes, they look cool. I think Wonder Woman actually looked better in her own trailer. And I actually think what we got from Gal Gadot in this trailer was just worse. Like her delivery, her dialogue, it was a little more stale. I know she only said a couple of things, but just everything about the Wonder Woman, it wasn't as Wonder Woman as it should have been.
While we're on her, one of my biggest problems with this year was the fact that we were getting a Wonder Woman movie this year, and then we're turning around and getting, which takes place in the past, and then we're turning back around and getting this Justice League movie. And I knew going into it that there was going to be some marketing overlap.
Yeah.
For casual fans, movie fans, not us, that has got to be so confusing for them. But in the trailer's defense, she was featured probably the least. And
definitely.
But potentially that's why maybe they didn't want to confuse people. But still, I mean, I'm sure people are going to be confused. Like, when I'm going to see Wonder Woman, is Batman going to be in the Wonder Woman? You know, it's like...
Am I right? Me and you had the same viewpoint on Superman, right? He's boring, lame character. We don't care for him.
He's one of my least favorite superheroes.
Isn't it hilarious that the trailer just made me completely forget Superman was a thing? Like, I don't need him to be in this movie. It wasn't until afterwards I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one character we're still gonna get that we didn't see.
I mean,
I'm like, I would have been fine if there's a Superman in this movie.
I actually would have, if what most people are speculating is true, that he's sort of like a dark Superman, and he's got a little bit more of an edge to him. I actually might have cared more about the movie if I would have seen him in the movie and he was sort of wrecking shop, Yeah. I think that would have, I don't know what the stakes are of this film. And also we have to talk about the fact that as hardcore, quote unquote, hardcore movie lovers and people that follow the drama behind the scenes, we have to address the fact that some of our opinions on this could just be because of all of the bullshit, all of the drama going on outside of it. I mean, there is a perspective of this movie that this movie might not have anything to do with where DC's going in the future. If I'm doing that,
I apologize. I don't want to do that.
I mean, it has to be said.
I would love to say that I am judging this purely based on what I saw and not with all this think of it. Because I am the guy that now that Reeves is behind the camera with the Batman, I'm the guy that's like, okay, we've righted the ship. I can put all that stuff under the rug. Like, that's how I truly feel about that movie.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that I'm not doing that. But just from what we got as far as them just fighting the parademons, part of me is thinking, well, maybe I'm already over the team up movie, because the way that Avengers Age of Ultron is structured, it's especially the final act, it's so much of what we already got in the Avengers, because all you can do is have all of these members fight the Putty Patrol, if you will, from the Power Rangers. It's just them fighting a bunch of drones or of the big boss, and it's
I actually don't get that criticism for Age of Ultron, if I'm being honest with you. Like, one of the biggest criticisms was that it was things that we had already seen, but I don't understand why that
on paper it is. I didn't have that. I think I like Age of Ultron more than most people do.
Yeah,
but this will be the third movie that kind of follows.
Of course,
that pattern. So maybe that's another reason why it's underwhelming to me.
But then we get Civil War, and it's similar, but it's obviously a lot different because it's heroes fighting against each other.
And you could also argue that if Joss Whedon wasn't directing Age of Ultron, another director could have taken it another direction, and it could anyway. So there's that. Also, I liked what I saw from Cyborg. All right, I thought it was kind of funny how there's a great shot of him throwing his body into a rolling car to save someone. There's a cool shot of Flash dodging bullets, and then it cuts to Wonder Woman just kicking a guy in a bank lobby. Like, it was the most underwhelming shot of Wonder Woman doing anything kick-ass. A lot of people are talking about the very last shot of Aquaman surfing on the Batmobile.
Is that what he's doing? Is he surfing? He looks like he's just...
Are you really going to...
He looks like he's just riding on the car.
Are you really going to think too hard just because I use the word surf, even though he's standing on the...
Kinda.
We're not talking...
Because he's Aquaman,
I'm not entertaining that
surf.
because you know that I just used that word.
Okay.
So anyway, that was...
Are other people saying he was surfing?
No.
Okay. I'm just saying.
Jesus Christ. So... the shot of him leaping into the air to take out those parademons at the final shot, we already saw a shot of him doing that. So, okay, I did think it was a great shot to end on. And that's what the people are talking about the most.
I could care less. about that.
I don't think that's an exciting shot.
Yeah.
Because we kind of already saw another version of that in the same trailer. I mean, the part that excited me the most was Batman and Gordon talking on the rooftop. And then Aquaman came in, and I thought that moment was great. But everything else...
So there's one thing with this whole Justice League thing that I don't think I've heard. I haven't heard anybody really talk about this. And if you've heard...
Because we're the first ones to do so.
Well, if you've heard somebody bring this up, then tell me. That's fine. So all this Ben Affleck and Batman stuff about him wanting to pull out and all of that, not wanting to be the writer, a lot of people were speculating that the reason that was because of studio involvement. That's been the consistent topic, and I'm sure there's some insider information going on with that. One thing that I haven't heard anybody bring up is that, and I've forgotten about, is that this whole time they've been filming and working on Justice League. Is there any potential that him not wanting to do the Batman could have come from the fact that he's either seen a version of this film or that he just wasn't satisfied with the experience of doing that? Maybe. Have you heard anybody talk about that? That maybe that was the reason?
I don't think so. No. But I think there was just a lot of time in between those two things that people just maybe didn't put those two pieces together. Because they were filming it, again, last summer. So it's been a while. Not to say that what you're saying is invalid. It's just I don't think people were putting it together.
Let's go a different direction with it. So John Campea on Movie Talk has talked about that they're trying to right the ship, so to speak, or go do the plan B. Have you heard him talk about that?
Which is hilarious because I'm forgetting how quickly it was from the time that BVS premiered and people were smearing it to the fact that they were shooting Justice League within a matter of months.
Yeah.
But with the promise that we heard what you said about BVS, Justice League will now be different. It's like, how quickly did they put together this Justice League movie with its new supposed light attitude?
Well, let's talk about that. So could the whole Ben Affleck thing and his apprehension to do the Batman come from the fact that maybe he was on board with Plan A and that was all a reaction to them switching gears, going to Plan B, and him thinking, look, I've already put all this effort into this. Now you're wanting to go in a completely different direction, maybe a completely different storyline, that had something to do with it.
I would actually think that'd be a little freeing.
Okay.
Like, I think if Plan B would be something that he would appreciate.
Yeah. Maybe he was just really adamant about Plan A.
I don't know. It's not that great of a plan.
Well, we don't really know what it is.
I know. I'm just based on execution, though. I mean, we're not a fan of the execution of any of this. We're just not.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't think... I think it would take a lot for someone like Ben Affleck, who is such a huge Batman fan, who has a bat cave in his house. I mean, I think it would take a lot for Ben Affleck to decide that he no longer wants to do this. So I think it's mainly about his film. Because it's one thing if he has a bad experience with something that Zack Snyder did, where he might not get a lot of the limelight or might not have as much say in this particular film because there's a lot more writing on it because there are so many more characters involved.
Right.
I think the problems purely come from what was going on with the Batman. Because he had more control. It was his movie at one point. So I think it was a ton of studio stuff.
So if they are sort of changing directions, they're pivoting, so to speak, how much, I mean, do we think that we see evidence of that in Justice League, or do you think this is something that they're just writing off as an event that's taking place?
What do you mean? Like, are you saying, like, Justice League might have Batman dead at the end? Is that what you're saying?
No, that the implications of whatever happens in this movie might not be as important to the overall.
So you think
idea.
There might be a conclusion, maybe not a through line?
Yeah, because look, I mean,
Not a this. You're thinking
the
that
Batman
the
is
end
old. The Batman is the oldest character, maybe with the
which
exception
is
of
one of the worst
Aquaman.
mistakes that they did to begin
Right.
with, and I was bitching about this 4 years ago.
So I mean, one way we look at it is we see everything prior to this. But yeah, I mean, I don't see how.
That's why the Batman 100% needs to be flashback.
I agree 100%.
Prequel, excuse me.
I don't know. This whole thing is a mess. The whole fact that they've only done one standalone movie from this, that we're not attached to any of these characters at all in the least. I don't know.
That's one thing you have going for Wonder Woman, which is not a movie that you're sold on. I think you're more sold on Batman v Superman than you are with Wonder Woman, because you just have nothing to say about that ever. I mean, you're so disinterested in Wonder Woman, but that's the one thing that I think Wonder Woman has. Man of Steel, I thought, happened so quickly. Have you seen Man of Steel?
I haven't seen Man of Steel. And
it happens in such a the story takes place in such a short amount of time, which is funny because it's like the movie starts with him as an infant and then goes till he's 33 or 30s, whatever. But the
who is he? Jesus?
The bulk of the movie takes place in like a couple of days, because he's barely Superman by the end of the movie. I don't think there's a lot there in that first movie, but it's easily the best one that's come out so far.
Well, my issues with Wonder Woman isn't necessarily that I don't think it looks like trash or anything, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that, one, I'm so over, like, it's not a prequel, but it's not current in the universe that they've already set up or that they are setting up. We're going back to.
I'm not over that at all. I think it's great.
I'm talking about me. I'm talking about me personally. I don't care about that. The fact that it's a period piece is something I'm not interested in, and because this DCEU hasn't been putting out good. They haven't been putting out good content up to this point. So nothing is right now. Wonder Woman is not something I'm going to see in the movie theaters. If it gets an overwhelmingly positive response from critics,
what is it? Give me the number. What is the number that will get Jaye Williams in the theaters?
Above an 87%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why not be more reasonable?
Because I have no reason to be invested in this.
Why not a 74?
I can get a 70 from a Marvel movie because I'm already invested in the bigger picture there. Like I didn't care about Ant-Man, and then I saw Civil War, and I went back and I watched Ant-Man.
See, I would love to see a DC movie get like a 60.
I mean,
that's where we are now. The fact that I don't even remember what they are, but Suicide Squad and BVS are both low teens, high 20s. I said that wrong. High teens, low 20s. So, I mean, if you got a 60% Wonder Woman, that would be an incredible improvement.
Yeah. And look, that's great, but they're the type of movies, a 60% for me is something that I'm going to watch retrospectively.
Okay, so back to bringing this back around to the first point that we made at the beginning of this conversation. That's why, in my opinion, that I can't call you a movie fanatic, because no matter what, I still have to see Wonder Woman, but you have the discipline to just completely ignore it until it comes out on home video.
Right, because a million people are going to review it, and nobody really gives a shit about what my take is on a shitty movie as well.
Final thoughts on the trailer itself. Did we even really discuss the visuals? I don't know.
Well, we know Zack Snyder can make things look cool. That's been established for a very, very long time.
I don't think it looks that great.
I think it looks cool. I mean, I
think it's just muddy CGI.
It looks it looks like if I was a kid and I saw it, I'd be like, "Whoa, that looks cool." But and as an adult, I'm like, "Yeah, it's stylized. It's overtly stylized.
It looks totally different than what Batman v Superman looked like." And that's the one thing I liked about BVS was the tone of it and everything. I mean, obviously,
the tone or the tone of the
everything,
look?
The aesthetic.
Okay,
the aesthetic of it, and obviously the end fight with Doomsday is somewhat of an outlier, obviously, because you have to kind of derail what you established earlier in the movie visually. But overall, I mean, I liked that. I thought that was way more well done visually than this looks. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just it's
funny because today, for some reason, I decided to pick back up on Daredevil.
Season 1, right?
Season 1 of Daredevil, and the action is so rooted in reality because it's a hand-to-hand combat against pretty much normal everyday individuals, and we don't get to see that often. I also randomly watched The Dark Knight Rises the other day, and it's crazy.
Did you watch all of it?
I didn't finish it, but it's crazy how little we see that. Like, it's always this over-the-top, fantastical, like, you know, overtly super powerful individual going up against a god, and it's just like, can we pull it back a little bit? Like, that's why Logan, I think, was so good. You know, it's just that brutal, real. I don't know. We can go down this road all day, but is there much more? Do you have much more about this trailer? Or
No.
do we need to take a break?
No, I'm a little bit over it. Do we have to take a break? We had a break.
We need to take a break, but we don't actually have to take a break.
Okay.
So I'm going to hit the stop button.
Yeah, roll the thing.
Let's go to some sort of advertisement. We'll be right back. You're listening to Sight and Sound Weekly.
Did you know that Sight and Sound has a YouTube channel? If you didn't, you need to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Sight and Sound, or you can find a link in the description of this podcast. But yeah, if you're wanting more Sight and Sound content, you can get a ton of it over on our YouTube page. There's a lot more content over there. I do music reviews. Ryan talks about movies. We talk about TV, obviously. And yeah, it's kind of a nice little place to go if you need some more Sight and Sound in your life.
We had a pleasant surprise. You guys wouldn't have noticed, but if you heard my dogs barking in the movie segment there, it's because we had a pleasant surprise from somebody who is, at this point, is mythical in the Sight and Sound universe. But our buddy Cody Ray Hecker decided to visit us out of the blue. We joke all the time, what is Cody doing? But today, he decided to show up at Sight and Sound Studios. Do you think he knew that you were here as well?
I know he did. He texted me.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. He asked if I was still over here, and I said, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know he was coming over, though.
Yeah, I didn't either. We got a knock on the door.
It's a shame because I think we talked about it on our after party. You made that same joke. What is Cody doing? And we've referenced this person so many times on this podcast.
After party was literally started because of Cody Ray Hecker. Did you know that? That's I came
because
up
of film beef, right?
We did a never before seen with we watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Christian Harloff wanted to be on the podcast, but we invited Cody instead, and we had just a great time. It was an incredible time.
It was awesome,
and I wanted to start after party to try to get that vibe again, and yeah.
Speaking of Christian Harloff, I love how I have extended an invitation for him to join us on a podcast several times, and he just doesn't. I wanted him to do a never before seen on The Thing. He's never seen John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's my favorite horror movie, so you want to come talk about our film beef? And got no reaction. And then I made that bet where it wasn't really a bet, but I extended that offer to join us for a conversation on the OA when he finished, and I don't even know if he got past episode 2.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know what's more likely, him being on the live show, After Schmo, or Sight and Sound. Like, what's the more likely?
I think you've already proposed this question, but
I did, but I'm throwing Sight and Sound in there as well.
If
our numbers are not doing good on SK Plus, he's going to say,
just depends.
I'll come on the show.
But he'll disguise it.
Yeah, guys, stop listening to Sight and Sound on SK Plus for like a month just to see if we can bait him on
Christian.
Please don't do that.
Yeah, please don't. Okay, but it's interesting. We're talking more about TV. That's what I want to talk about now. So on this past week, I wasn't available for Let's Talk Legion.
You were not available. I had to have someone step in.
Yes, and she did a fantastic job.
Did you listen to the whole episode?
I watched and listened to the whole episode with you guys. So I just wanted to take a moment and talk to you about Legion.
Yeah, look, but I'm glad we're doing this. I wanted, before I watched the episode, I don't think I would have brought this up as a Sight and Sound topic, but we are coming up to the season finale of Legion. In fact, if you're listening to this on SK Plus on a Wednesday, it will air tonight.
Yeah, the day. Yeah, right. Exactly.
So once I watched the episode, I was kind of like, man, I really want to know Ryan's take. So you guys are kind of getting a Let's Talk Legion on Sight and Sound. If you have not watched Legion, look, I think for this week I'll put timestamps in there anyways.
Are we going to spoil it right here? I guess we have to.
Well,
we're going to discuss it.
I don't want to. This show is so good. I mean, we do a show called Let's Talk Legion. It's a separate podcast from this, but I mean, it's such a good show. I don't even want.
It's available in the Sight and Sound playlist on the SK Plus channel.
It is. So check that out if you're watching Legion. I just don't want to even run that risk. So if you're listening to this and you haven't watched it, I'll put timestamps in the description box, and you guys can just skip to the next segment. But
okay,
let's get into it.
Let's talk Legion.
Okay.
Jay.
Should I play the music right now?
Let me just say that I fucking love this episode.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It is
awesome.
I said it on the podcast. It felt like a finale to me.
It felt like something. It was a good time.
Did you have a Legion boner? Like what?
I did. I was hyped.
You were wearing those gym shorts.
I got excited from the very first scene between Carrie and Oliver in the ice cube.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, in the ice cube, because it felt like a play in that scene.
How so?
And
it's an interesting take.
Just the delivery of everything, and it was a little expository. It felt
very expository.
It felt theatrical, the way that the things were being delivered, and silly me, I thought this entire episode might take up that attitude, but I think every individual sequence or segment was unique to the one before it. So
absolutely.
like in this ice cube sequence, it was theatrical. It felt like a play. It felt like I was an audience to something that was being done on stage. And then you have
is it safe to say that it was probably the most straightforward episode that we've gotten all season?
So this was the most, for a show that we constantly compared to Inception, this was actually its Inception, if that makes sense. Almost literally.
Uninhabited dream space?
Yeah. It was almost literally that. Because there was a ton of exposition, and obviously Inception is loaded with it, but it's always interesting, and both come down to a moment that's frozen in time, essentially. And they're trying to jump out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to put it simply.
I didn't care as much. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad they did the exposition for 99% of the audience watching, because I think people were getting not necessarily tired. I've loved the show. I would rank almost every single episode a 10 out of 10, except with the exception of one episode in particular. I would probably give an 8 out of 10. But this one, I think the casual viewing audience, they needed this. They needed some explaining. I thought the way it was handled, anytime you go through exposition, you have to be very careful because it can come off a little hokey. I thought the only thing that I didn't care for was that there were 3 isolated scenes in this episode that were straight exposition. They were all very interesting, though.
Do what?
They were all very interesting the way they were handled.
I mean,
they were done in an artistic manner.
That's really my only requirement, is that if it's exposition, you're either doing it in a creative way to where you don't even notice it, which I want pretty much. That's how every project should be handled. But something like Inception, I heard you say it just the other day. Inception's your 4th favorite movie of all time. I think our generation, that's something you share with our generation. We just love Inception. That's one of our pinnacles in theater, in cinema history at this point in time.
That movie comes up
And
throughout the zeitgeist, very often. But I think more often than people realize.
It's almost it's the second Matrix in that way.
I agree.
So
I agree 100%.
And but that's obviously one of its flaws. For someone like you who has an issue with exposition, a lot of people
I don't have that with that movie though. That's strange. Strangely enough,
which is weird because it's more of a problem in Inception than it is Legion. But
that's your opinion.
But the qualification, or all I need it to be, is interesting.
Right.
As long as it's totally just engrossed. If I'm engrossed in what's being discussed, no matter what, I will sort of forget about it and kind of just dust it off because, and that's what I think this episode did. I didn't have a problem with it like I think you did, but I'm surprised you didn't call me out on the show.
About what?
About the chair. Because it was.
In what way?
Because it was just last week that I was telling you. For sure, I don't think we're getting anything like that.
Right.
And we got
a lot. We got a lot.
And I was
it wasn't just
wrong.
The chair.
We even got animated chalk drawings of a bald man.
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, we've been very taken back by the fact that we've said it multiple times on Let's Talk Legion that if they didn't dive into the actual content of the X-Men even more than they already are with Legion, like if they didn't bring up another character besides David Haller, Legion, I would have no problem with it because it becomes, for me, I think you marry yourself to fan expectation. I think with a show that is this creative and this interpretive, I think a lot of the fans out there who are diehard comic book lovers are okay with you not exploring those areas. So anytime they've even remotely hinted at Charles Xavier, I have been shocked by it.
I was just like, ooh, that's him.
when that shot came up of his chair, Kayla and I both said, holy shit, and paused it and rewound it and started the episode over again. Because it was that powerful of a moment for us as people who know a little bit more about the show. When we got that entire scene, I was even more like, I'm of the belief now that there is. I don't know if we're gonna get. I've said that it wouldn't surprise me if the final shot was of the back of a bald man's head. That would be pretty crazy, but I am now of the opinion that I think it is almost impossible for there to be a second season of Legion and him not be involved in the show somehow.
Agree. I'm with you, especially if they defeat the Shadow King, because then that's all you have left. I mean, that's one of the. We only have one episode left, so yeah, this episode, Chapter 7, brings up the fact that he is now aware he's adopted. He's connecting all these dots, but episode 8 still has to be about the Shadow King. It's the finale, and he's the villain of the series.
Before we go into that, though, I do want to ask you one question about the episode 7, the scene where
I wasn't gonna talk about the Shadow King yet. I was just gonna say that once you get to season 2, because I'm assuming that Shadow King will be defeated. That's what you have left in season 2 is this overarching mystery of who his dad is and where he's at. That's naturally where it should go.
That's not my take, but I like that take.
Thank you.
I am
as long as you like me.
Let's come back to that in 1 second. I want to talk about the scene, the silent film scene with Aubrey Plaza dressed up like a cross between Beetlejuice and I'm forgetting his name. What's the musician?
Yeah.
Why am I forgetting his name?
I don't know, but I was gonna say I heard you say it on Let's Talk Legion, and I was gonna say Helena Bonham Carter.
Okay, that too. I can't believe I'm forgetting the name of. Fuck. Anyways, it doesn't matter.
It's okay.
That entire scene was unbelievable. They keep doing things in this show that are like artistic, and sometimes when shows do that, like I remember the movie 500 Days of Summer. Mark Webb does things from time to time in that movie, and why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
I think that's the second time on Sight and Sound that you've dropped that you know who the director of 500 Days of Summer is.
Do you know why that is?
No.
Because he's directed 2 of my favorite music videos of all time,
Really?
One of which being
Amazing Spider-Man 2?
One of which being brand new's Sick Transit Gloria.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
He directed that video, and then he directed Yellow Card's Ocean Avenue music video.
Wow.
And those two music videos by two different bands are tied together.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Boom.
Had no idea.
We'll watch them after this. Anyways, so I roll my eyes in that movie sometimes because they're like, look how hipstery and weird we can be. And
Sure.
But with this show, they keep doing things like a silent movie scene in black and white that was fucking amazing.
And that's sort of where I was until I distracted myself. That's sort of where I was going, thinking that opening scene was a little more like a play. But it's like, I think that's why the show is also so confusing to a lot of people, is because it seems like every sequence has its own little angle
style,
or its aesthetic or style too. And I think that's what gets people confused, because typically when you're watching something with that kind of language, that's when you go to a different place. But like in this specific example, the astral plane, depending on what scene you're in, looks very different.
Right.
And for certain viewers, it could be very easy to get confused. Like, are they here now or are they here? But you're actually, in this particular episode, in the same place the whole time. It just looks different. Then they do the They Live thing where they put on the glasses and they're, well, it's sort of the reverse of They Live. They're able to see what's not there. Or not see what it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they can tell reality from, well, not necessarily reality, but yeah.
And that's what leads into the the silent scene.
What was your reaction when you saw, again, guys, we're in spoiler territory, so what was your reaction when you saw the raw power of the Shadow King as
so cool
as he killed the Eye?
I think this was really slick to do that in black and white. Because if that was in color, we might be having a completely different discussion entirely, complaining about how fake it looked. Well, or maybe it didn't look as natural, or the CGI was weak in a show.
That's why Noah Hawley is so fucking smart to make these decisions.
To put that in black and white, it looked a lot more natural. And then they pulled off. Well, actually, they pulled it off in the.
They did.
Again,
the imagery of him being crumpled up in a piece of paper, flashing back to him bleeding.
I was gonna say, but that eventually leads to him crumpling up again.
Yeah, I missed that.
Yeah, I don't know how. You also missed that the shield spelled out shield. I don't know how you missed that.
I have CT.
I was so angry at you listening to that episode.
It was late. It was 12:30
You're right.
at night.
You're right. I'll give you credit.
And I like to take things in before I podcast about them. But
no, you're right.
But the imagery of him crumpling up like I called it a pretzel raisin. And the imagery back to back of that of him just like blood pouring down his head. Holy shit! Did that remind you a lot of Looper?
No.
Paul Dano and Looper.
I mean, I heard your point, but it didn't make me think of that.
All right. Well, you just.
But I will say that you're
getting spicy again.
Talk about being on the edge of your seat. I mean, that final moment, right before they wake up from the still, he catches those bullets.
That was crazy.
My heart was pumping. I was genuinely concerned. At first, I was concerned that she was gonna still get shot.
Yeah.
And then I was concerned that he got shot, of course, which was the trick of the whole episode, or at least the final scene. But my only question was. I have two questions.
Okay.
And one of them is actually a criticism that I'm going to probably talk about again when we do our season wrap-up. Where was Patonomy?
I agree.
The entire episode.
Well, he showed back up when they snapped back out of it.
He's in but that doesn't count.
Yeah.
I wanted to see him throughout the episode.
Yeah.
He was the only one missing.
He must have been shooting a commercial that night. Doing something else.
One criticism I have for this show is that Melanie Bird is the most important person in a TV show ever.
I agree.
She has so little to do after episode 2.
I also don't like and I know people. And if somebody rolls their eyes at this, I get it. But she also, her motivation is purely by love, and
well, that's not even a great story, because he comes back and they don't even have a moment together. It's just her looking bewildered that he exists. They don't have anything to do with each other.
I agree.
And I thought it
would have been way better and way more effective if he was the one who sacrificed himself.
Sure.
In that moment. And maybe that caused him to remember her and they shared a moment together. This is Andy Greenwald's fault.
in that final scene, because Division 3 threatens them first on the balcony. It's those two standing on the balcony. And I
also like the idea.
Doesn't have any weight.
I also like the idea, though, that through most of the season, Division 3 has seemed like the opponent here, or the big bad, so to speak. But when they show up, you're kind of like, you're about to feel the wrath of either David or the devil with the yellow eyes. And so this is a part of the conversation I want to have. You were talking about where to go from here, season 2, episode 8, whatever. I'm on the Kevin Marks train. Kevin Marks, I think you probably heard me talk about it in the episode, but Kevin Marks sent me...
fellow Schmovillian.
Absolutely.
Kevin Marks.
Sent me mini books in my DMs. He's trying to slide into them DMs. I'm taken. I'm in a relationship, so maybe we can work out something else. But anyways, he is under the impression, or he would like to see a moment where David is at his last leg to save his friends. And he has to make a deal with the devil, and the only way he can become all-powerful is to let the devil with the yellow eyes loose and take control of his body. And he does that to save his friends, but he also has compromised himself in order to do that. So the devil with the yellow eyes, or the Shadow King, now has control over his body. And what if the entire second season, David, like I've been saying all this season, David becomes a villain, and the main character of season 2 is Charles Xavier, because he's the only one that can control him or defeat the Shadow King.
I wasn't on board until that statement right there.
That's the cherry on top.
I do enjoy that idea. I'm more curious about what's going to happen in the finale, mainly because we've never seen a physical manifestation of the devil with the yellow eyes. So I'm wondering if this is just going to be some strange battle within the mind.
We kind of have. In the episode where he had kind of taken over David's mind, that was when he said, "I'm the magic man." I mean, that was him completely. You mean the real world?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've never seen him physically.
Gotcha.
It's always been.
Well, I don't know if he has a physical form.
I was gonna say that's my question. Is how I'm curious what that's gonna look like in the finale, the final fight, if you will. I'm very curious how that will be done.
Yeah.
Because it has to look different than everything we have already seen. I would assume that they're going to take some sort of unique route, because that follows with everything else in the show. I mean, everything looks so unique from episode to episode. So
I wouldn't mind seeing like a Fight Club situation where there's just two people, David and Shadow King, and
that turned me on.
I know.
It's Fight Club.
I know it would. Guys, if you haven't watched Legion at all, you're missing out on what I think, and maybe we're a little biased, but
you just started speaking to the person who had to skip all of this for spoilers.
I know. Okay, let me rewind, guys. If you're watching Legion, and hopefully you are, let us know what you think about the show. Get involved with Let's Talk Legion. If you're not, I think it's a good show to sort of supplement everything else. I think it's TV's most confusing show that's on right now, hands down, and we try to make sense of it as best as we can.
We do a pretty good job.
Yeah, and a plug to the TV Showtime app. Again, we are affiliated with them, but it's a great app. It's social media for TV lovers. It's got a great community. You can track the shows that you're watching, give your own grade and rating and all that stuff, and you can kind of show off to your friends like, no, I don't like this show. Breaking Bad's overrated, which it's not. It's the best show of all time. So jump on it and follow us. We're both on there.
Yeah.
Ryan may or may not use the app, but you can find him. Sight Sound Pod, I believe is his name, or is it Sight and Sound?
Sight Sound Pod.
Okay, and you can find me, Jay Williams, J to the A to the Y to the E, on the TV Showtime app. Let's talk about something a little bit different. I didn't even know if we could categorize this as TV.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's fine. But Dave Chappelle has just released 2, I think he has a 3rd stand-up special on Netflix. And we are both big fans of stand-up comedy. Obviously, Mark Ellis is a stand-up comedian. I don't know how that's tied into anything, but he is.
It's not.
And look, I grew up on Chappelle's Show in high school.
Loved it.
Chappelle's Show was something that we would watch, and then when I played football, so in the locker room, everybody was giving their best quotes, like their favorite quotes from Chappelle's Show the night before. And I loved it. I loved the commentary. I love the social commentary, and that the racial commentary is obviously always funny. And I loved it when it kind of went away. I think that left a huge opening for shows for a ton of skit shows. Shows like Key and Peele.
Is it still? It's still the best Comedy Central show after all these years. It is, I think, the best thing they've ever done.
I agree. I think it is. It might have changed now, but it's like the highest selling TV show DVD that's ever.
It's gotta be different now. It's gotta be like Game of Thrones or something.
DVD? When you can just watch it on HBO?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'd have to research that. Cody Ray Hecker, research that for us. I don't know. Did you enjoy this thing? Did you watch both of them?
I did watch both of them.
I did not.
What?
I only watched one of them.
Which one? California?
The first
LA?
one.
Damn it, Jay, you're the one that brought this up. Because when you said, let's talk about Dave Chappelle, at first I was like, okay, I don't really know what I'm going to say, but now I'm all about talking about this.
Yeah.
Because
pitch me on the second one, because I thought it's a little lackluster for me, if I'm being honest.
The first one I thought was consistently pretty funny.
Yeah.
I actually had a good time with it quite a bit. And I finished it and then got online and started reading how people are criticizing his jokes towards the trans and gay community.
Okay.
And I'm defending Dave in this. I think that comedy is the place, the platform.
I agree 100%.
To do something like this.
Yeah.
And he is not, by making jokes about, he's just saying that they're not off limits to be made fun of. I think that's all he's saying, and I totally agree with that. I hope that I never say anything that discriminates against the LGBTQ community, because that's not who I am at all. I'm very, very liberal when it comes to social issues, but it's stand-up comedy, and I don't expect my comedians to be politically correct, and I think that will ruin comedy. Jerry Seinfeld has talked about that a lot. So I was totally fine with what he did, and he doesn't have to, but he says it within the stand-up that he has gay friends. He's obviously someone who
he shouldn't even have to preface that.
Exactly, but he does.
Right.
So it's like you know that it's coming from a respectful place, that he's just making fun of particular people that he actually knows, and it shouldn't even be a thing, because it shouldn't be a thing only because this is a thing in comedy. It's not just Dave Chappelle. He isn't the first to make these kinds of statements or jokes.
Censorship has no place in stand-up comedy.
I agree.
It has zero place. And in fact, championing free speech starts with stand-up comedy, because stand-up is about absurdity. It is about saying things that no one else says, not just for a laugh, but so that you think about it, so that you consider what's right and wrong about life in general. Stand-up comedy points out the things and says the things that nobody else is saying, so that there is an open dialogue for things like that. Dave Chappelle is an incredibly brilliant stand-up comedian. Louis C.K. is a brilliant stand-up comedian. They're very different stand-up comedians.
Absolutely.
But with that being said, the conversation, look, that shouldn't be a conversation. And anybody that is having that conversation, you need to spend more time on the rest of the internet. Don't get out of here. Just get out of here.
So did you finish that entire special though?
I did. I finished the entire first one.
So you don't think that was over the line at all?
Fuck no. No, never. I mean, look.
Okay. So what I will say is that having seen the second one where he was in Austin, Texas, he did more of it.
Okay.
So I think the criticism...
Playing to the crowd?
I think... Maybe. I think the criticism actually came from this second stand-up special.
Interesting.
Because it was a lot naughtier, and I know that kind of sounds silly, but the first one was about political stuff. He had some funny stories about OJ. It was a lot more of that. But the second one was more sexual, and he sort of he dove deeper and made fun of the gay community and the trans community again. And I thought it was actually a little bit worse. And I think that's where the criticism is coming from, because there was a lot more shock value to what he said in the second one. So again, but our first impression after the first one was like, really, people have a problem with this? But I think if you eventually watch that second one, you might see where some people would get upset. But again, to follow up with what we just said, I don't feel like he has anything to apologize for.
Yeah, I mean, the greater discussion shouldn't be had about anything that Dave Chappelle says on a stand-up special. It should be the fact that there are people out there that outside of stand-up have these views irregardless of if they're trying to entertain people or not. Yeah. I mean, those are the conversations that we have to have. If there's somebody out there listening to this that maybe you have a strange perspective on that, or you are overtly critical of the things that were said, go watch the episode of Atlanta. The only season of Atlanta, I almost said season 1 of Atlanta, the only season of Atlanta that exists, where I don't remember what episode it was, but it was sort of like a talk show sort of thing where
Paperboy's on the talk show.
Yeah,
it's like middle of the season, episode 4 or something like that.
It was a commentary on how black culture sort of feels about, you know, things that are hot button issues, hot button topics. And it's very interesting how Donald Glover sort of expresses that. And I think it's very interesting to know that, yeah, not all communities feel the same way about things. Like, and I think it's very interesting for white people, especially, to say, oh, how dare they say that? Our community has never been oppressed like another community has. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
So it's like maybe they do have a different sociological perspective on understanding those things that we do, because we see people that are oppressed and we say, oh, you know, that sucks, that's terrible, this and that. But just to another community that has been oppressed as well, we have no idea how another community would feel about that.
And if he makes another statement, I can't remember which special it actually is, but he made a joke about how he was thanking Muslims and the gay and trans communities for taking the weight off the black shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you listen to something like that, then you obviously know that his perspective is he feels connected with you because of discrimination.
Absolutely.
If anybody understands what these people are going through, it's Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
So just relax.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like he gave plenty of context as to what his actual perspective is on those issues. So if you're just nailing him because he made fun of these communities, then I think that you, like,
spend more time on the internet.
It's because I just chill out. And I know that this is coming from a straight white male, but I feel like I'm
also a straight white male.
but I mean, and if
I do have 2 dogs, though.
If you don't like that, then I'm sorry, but it's just like,
deal with it.
I'm a fan of comedy, and I am also a huge advocate for civil rights and social issues, and they're separate.
Yeah,
they just are.
Yeah, I'm an advocate for free speech and expression and all that good stuff. Let's talk about the quality here, because we're in a very, very, very interesting time right now for the art form of stand-up comedy. Joe Rogan says that there's never been a better time than stand-up comedy. We're sort of in a golden age. It used to be about stand-up comics being stand-up comics so that they could get a sitcom deal or an entertainment deal. And now you can just be a famous stand-up comedian and branch off into other realms. But we are at a time where there may be a little bit of fatigue, I think, with stand-up comedy, because
really,
I personally think so.
I think the opposite.
I think it's a great time for it, but we're in a transition period, in my opinion, of some of the big name headliners, your Joe Rogans, your Dave Chappelle's, sort of Dave Chappelle. This is his first time with a special in a long time. Bill Burr, Louis C.K. I'm a huge Bill Burr fan. I thought the last two specials, they weren't my favorite of his.
No, they weren't.
The last couple Louis C.K. specials, not my favorite. There used to be a Louis C.K. special every single year for a stretch. He's an incredibly prolific stand-up comedian. I'm also not a stand-up comic, so I don't have a necessary basis to judge. I'm just judging on like my enjoyment of them. I think that might be why we're seeing Louis sort of venture out into, the more producer, director, filmmaker sort of roles. He's like a producer on a bunch of different TV shows now. My perspective on stand-up comedy is it's a great time for it. The distribution methods of Netflix and Hulu, and I think isn't there a streaming service like specifically for stand-up comedy?
Is it CISO?
CISO
TV?
It exists. Obviously, YouTube and self-distribution and self-promotion, that's all great. But, it's sort of a dog-eat-dog world right now. What do you think about
So growing up, Comedy Central, obviously with Chappelle's show, but not just that. Comedy Central was the platform for me to see stand-up. And as time has gone on, I don't know if you agree with this, it's kind of gone the way of MTV, whereas it's more about original programming. There's less of an emphasis as to what it originally, set the groundwork for. So, and that's why things like CISO and even Netflix over the years has consistently gotten into stand-up more and more, and you're seeing it with this Dave Chappelle thing. I think I like the idea of Netflix. The way they categorize this Dave Chappelle thing is that it just says Dave Chappelle, and it's in collections. And if they start to do that for everybody, I think that is great.
Yeah,
I would love to see that. Just Bill Burr, you click on it, and then it's by special.
It's also just an hour, because a lot of specials can be anywhere from like an hour and a half to 2 hours sometimes. And
do they? I don't watch specials that long.
There are some that go a little long. I think one of Bill Burr's last ones was pretty long. But regardless, the interesting thing about stand-up comedy too right now is that we're also in a very experimental phase with stand-up comedy. You have people like I forget the name of the show, but Ari Shaffir started basically a comedy series in LA that got picked up by Comedy Central and developed into a TV show where it's just storytellers, and it's kind of like stories in the round, like they kind of stand in a 360-degree stage. You also have things like I forget the guy's name. He was a writer on the Chappelle show. Why am I forgetting the comic's name? You're blanking as well.
I'm not blanking.
No idea. There was a guy that did a stand-up special called Three Mics, and somebody out there is going to be like, it's this guy. It's called Three Mics, where one is stand-up, the second mic is just like storytelling, and the third mic is something else. But like that's something that's really different right now. You also have roast battles that are going on. Started at the Comedy Store, now they're on Comedy Central as well. That's what's exciting to me about comedy, is that we're
absolutely
getting into like there's new ways to sort of do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
I don't know, but in terms of this Dave Chappelle thing, did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed both of them.
Okay.
For different reasons. I thought the second one, the Austin one, that's a little bit more sexual, it was more one note for me.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's just, I'm not always a fan of, like basing most of your bit or your set on sexual jokes, only because I just feel like, for one, I think that they cheapen it a little bit.
It's easy. It's an easy joke.
But not even that. It's just like there's only so many things that you can do with that. I feel
agree.
like, I mean, it's not funny to me just talking about having a big dick. Like, it's just not.
Right.
That's something that's played. That's why I liked something like the first special, where he's actually talking about his firsthand accounts with O.J. Simpson and making it funny. I thought that was really strong about the first one, is that he's just coming out and telling stories, and he's just making them funny.
Yeah.
And it does, and there's a lot of, like, the end of both specials have great callbacks to things that have been said earlier, but he's at that point where or maybe he always was, but I just thought he did a really great job this time around just making stories funny.
Well, stand-up comedy in general is so subjective, and it's so about the individual. There are comics out there that people love that I just don't care for. Like I love Joe Rogan. I've listened to his podcast from the very, very beginning, but I don't like his stand-up. Like, I've never been a big fan of his stand-up. I like Louis C.K., but Louis C.K. is not a comic that I'm sitting there howling at the top of my lungs throughout the entire thing. It's a very consistent chuckle for me.
I think I'm the only person who champions Anthony Jeselnik.
There's a lot of people who like Anthony Jeselnik.
I don't know anybody who likes Anthony Jeselnik, and I feel like I overhype him, but I feel like he's really overlooked. I freaking love his entire attitude and approach to it, and I think it's fantastic.
I'm also extremely appreciative of smart comedy. Like, if there's a joke that is delivered and I don't laugh immediately, but it resonates in my mind and I sort of, unpack it and I laugh later, that's an even more powerful joke to me.
Sure.
Like, I like comedy like that. But yeah, I'm excited to watch the second one. I'm excited to see the dynamic between the two. We don't talk about stand-up comedy, but Dave Chappelle he's a massive, massive stand-up comedian.
Is he the one that said recently that Trump makes comedy more difficult?
Yes.
Okay. He didn't mention Trump once.
It's good.
In either of his specials.
Another very easy premise.
I thought that was very, very interesting. I also thought it was weird that the first special in LA was filmed a year ago. Because it was right after Five Dog died and Gary Shandling, which was last March. So I just thought it was weird that it took a year for Netflix to distribute it. I mean, that might be another conversation. The fact that they're just unpacking these specials within a week's time, I think.
Well, he's also very he is still a prolific stand-up comedian. I mean, he does perform. There are stories about, I think he holds the record for being on stage the longest, like, of any stand-up comedian. I think he went like hours upon hours upon hours. He's also known for just showing up in random places and with a microphone and just doing comedy on the street before. Rogan's talked about that. Let me throw out one last thing here and then we'll transition out of this.
I have one last thing too.
Okay, so we have two last things. Netflix, to me, seems like the perfect spot for the new Chappelle show, if he ever wanted to do it again, because a lot of the issues that he had back in the day with Comedy Central was their sort of involvement about how they thought things should be, and he sort of just wanted the freedom to kind of express himself. Hey man, Netflix would be fucking perfect for the Chappelle Show version 2.0. Your thoughts?
I agree 100%.
Is that the point you were going to make?
It segues brilliantly into my point.
Well, I have been known to be a fantastic podcaster.
I agree. I would love
that I'm a fantastic podcaster.
No,
okay.
I agree that Netflix would be a great way for the show to come back. I would love to see that. I actually want to ask you about something I not only read before seeing the show, but he actually mentioned it within the show. So this is obviously very real for him. What's he got against Key and Peele?
Yeah.
Do you agree with his attitude? I read that he is saying he made a joke.
I watched the interview.
Okay.
There's an interview and I watched it.
So for those of you who don't know, Dave Chappelle, his feelings are hurt that, and this was his quote, when he watches Key and Peele, and at the end of it, it says created by Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele, he feels like his name should be on that title card because they essentially ripped his premise. And I want to know how you feel about this, because I think it's a little silly.
They actually had, they asked this question on Fighter and the Kid podcast, and I was interested in their take as well. I think it's one of the dumbest takes I've ever heard in my entire life
from Dave Chappelle.
For anybody to just assume that the idea of sketch comedy done in that way. I mean, obviously, look. They've been doing sketch comedy on TV has been a thing for years. I mean, Saturday Night Live has been doing it for decades upon decades. And I mean, maybe he thinks that because they
come out and greet the audience.
Maybe, and I mean, look, it would be different if they did that. Actually, they don't do that anymore on Key and Peele. They
I'm
don't,
I'm on season 1 still.
okay, yeah, they did that at one point.
Yeah, I'm watching it for the first time. Shut up.
They did that at one point, and if he brought in like or if they brought in music performers, maybe I could see where they could have a thing, but
Right.
But it's just not the same at all. Not to mention too.
Well, no, I would say it's not the same at all. I think it doesn't matter that it's the same.
Yeah, it wouldn't matter if it was the same.
It doesn't.
Like, nobody has. Look, we do a podcast that's similar to a lot of podcasts that are out there. And I'm sure.
I think it just matters if it's good.
Fuck yeah, you can't recreate.
Would this be a completely different conversation if Key and Peele was a disaster?
Probably.
Another, and I don't know if this is the best example.
Could you say the same thing about Portlandia?
Maybe. Sure.
Okay.
I mean, he could. I wouldn't agree with it.
Right.
But another example that I have is when Dyrdek came out with Ridiculousness in response to Tosh.0.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, what do you? Is it the same there? Like, do you think Tosh has a reason to get mad that he is doing that?
No, I mean, you're asking if you're looking for like an argument, then no.
I'm not arguing. I'm just, that's just another example, and I'm wondering.
Look, I champion it, man. Like if somebody is doing something, and you think that you can do it better, then fucking do it. Do it. I mean, it would be different if you like ripped it off like shot for shot and it had like the same set, but I mean. Tosh.0 and Rob Dyrdek's what's that called? Ridiculousness.
Yeah.
They have enough of their own flavor behind them to justify both being on the air.
Right.
I think their personalities are completely different from one another.
Yeah.
Key and Peele.
One is professionally funny, and the other is not.
Do Key and Peele even do stand up? I don't even know if they do stand up that often. Like.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe they have a stand-up special.
Maybe they come from that background. I don't know, but their stuff. The thing that I think separates Key and Peele and Chappelle Show, that I actually think Key and Peele does better, and obviously you can say because of the time frame that both were done in, but Key and Peele, they put a huge emphasis on the visual aesthetic of that show.
Yeah,
I mean, we talk all the time about TV shows that look like movies. Some of their sketches look fucking great.
They're wannabe filmmakers.
Oh my god! And look, I like Key and Peele. I don't think they're always a smash hit every single time, and they've been. I think they have more seasons now than the Chappelle Show, but I think it's a silly
they're
take.
done, but
yeah, I think. Wait, Key and Peele's done?
Yeah,
it's over. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I thought it was still going on.
No.
Okay, well I don't keep up with it.
They finished. They called their final season. It ended last year.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's news to me. Anyways, regardless.
Interesting.
Regardless, I think that's a silly take. Yeah, it's a silly take. I think he's going to regret saying that, if I'm being honest.
Or he could just go to Netflix and bring back the Chappelle Show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we'd be talking about that again.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, it's going that way anyways. Most comedians nowadays, like, they belong on the internet. They don't belong on networks and cable TV.
I always forget Dave Chappelle lives like an hour and a half from us.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
It is very, very strange.
Do you want to take a break?
Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll end with 2 music topics. Stick around. Listening to Sight and Sound Weekly.
I'm not sure how people listen to Sight and Sound every single week, whether it's on our YouTube page or it's on SoundCloud or you subscribe to the podcast itself. But if you're not subscribed to the podcast and you're listening to this right now, make sure that you know that every single week we bring you Sight and Sound Weekly, of course, but then we kind of break off and do our own little thing. We have Sight and Sound music episodes hosted by yours truly. Obviously, Ryan's got you covered in Sight and Sound movies. And we've even got Sight and Sound television. We do this weekly thing every single week. But for people looking for a little bit more content, we break it down to each individual categories that we talk about. Make sure you're subscribed on our podcast feed or on YouTube or however you find this podcast. And be on the lookout for our standalone episodes.
So I'm pretty excited about this music topic. 9 times out of 10, I wouldn't bring up a music topic on Sight and Sound Weekly if it was just because of a single. But the new Kendrick Lamar single had embedded in it a release date for a new album. And I've also been counting the days to when we could start, not start, but talk about Kendrick Lamar on Sight and Sound Weekly, because I've been wanting to get you hyped for this guy for a very, very long time.
That's exactly what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say, I've been waiting for the moment where we've cycled back to where all of these great hip-hop artists that you're a fan of come out with new releases. That way we can anticipate them together.
100%.
Because that actually does excite me. And I did pick up on the release date, April 7th. I have no idea what it's going to be called. Can you remind me?
I have no idea either.
Okay. Nobody knows. But I'm with you. I do want to get excited for this. So it's just a matter of weeks, matter of days.
Yeah, absolutely. So nobody knew this was coming, so to speak. Now, we kind of had an idea that there was a Kendrick Lamar release on the horizon just because the sort of ebb and flow of album cycles. His album, To Pimp a Butterfly, came out in 2015, was incredibly heralded for being one of the best albums of the year. Not even just one of the best albums of the year. And I'm not the only one that says this. It's one of the best albums of the decade. Probably considered one of the best hip-hop albums of all time. On Metacritic, it is one of the highest rated albums ever.
What about its stupid album title?
So we'll talk about that. We'll get into it a little bit. But this new single that just dropped that I'm forgetting the name of.
I was going to say, I forgot to.
First of all, I don't think this was supposed to be a single.
It's not a single by definition.
Right. It's not something that's supposed to get radio play, really. It's not something that's supposed to, set a tone for what the album necessarily could be. This was basically a teaser trailer for an album. The song is called The Heart Part 4. It's part of a series of tracks that he's done. That's sort of him basically putting a flag down and saying, hey, guys, I'm Kendrick Lamar. Here's what I'm about. Let me sort of go through my history with Kendrick Lamar, but I want to start with you. What is your perception of Kendrick Lamar as sort of an outsider?
I have almost no perception of Kendrick Lamar. I dabbled into Pimp a Butterfly, but it didn't really connect with me. It kind of suffers from the same issues that I have with Life of Pablo, that it felt like it was a little experimental and it sounds like people are just changing channels and you're getting all kinds of different things.
Right.
And I actually think this new song suffers from that slightly.
Right.
Because it just kind of seems to be two songs in one.
It's a few songs in one, I think.
Instrumentally,
for sure.
And so basically anything that I could say in response to what you just asked, I can also apply to what I got from this song. So that's sort of just how I feel about it. I don't really have an impression of it. I liked parts of this song, and I think I've probably heard things that I liked from him before, but don't always realize that it's Kendrick. Like I know I've heard him elsewhere. I'm just not positive where.
Well,
like it's almost like I'm just now learning his voice a little bit, and that's how out of the loop I've been.
That's an interesting take, because one of the staples of Kendrick, and that's funny that you're saying that, because one of the staples of Kendrick Lamar is that he has many voices. He raps in completely different voices.
Okay.
He does that because there are parts of his albums where he portrays different characters and he portrays different personas.
So he's like Nicki Minaj.
A little bit, but with a much better artistic expression behind him. But let me ask you this question. What is your perception of Kendrick Lamar based on what other people say about him?
He's the greatest rapper alive.
Okay.
I've heard that from several people. I know a lot of Kendrick fans.
Okay. Yeah, and I echo those sentiments. So Kendrick is one of my favorite rappers. Drake is one of my favorite rappers. They are completely different. And to people that know both of those artists, are probably like, well, no shit. But the things that I like and enjoy about Drake and Kendrick Lamar are completely different. When I sit down to listen to a Kendrick Lamar album, I'm not looking for the catchy song. I'm not looking for the club banger. I'm not even really looking for repeat value.
You want them to rap?
No.
Oh. Because I do.
My expectations of a Kendrick Lamar album, for me personally, what I get excited about is the story. The first time I ever listened to Kendrick Lamar was when I reviewed Good Kid, Mad City, the album before To Pimp a Butterfly. Mm-hmm. I remember listening to that song.
Is that on Spotify?
It is on Spotify. That is my favorite Kendrick Lamar album. I personally like it more than To Pimp a Butterfly, but To Pimp a Butterfly is a more he achieves more on that album. Regardless, the first time I listened to that album, I was playing video games in my office, listening to it in the background, and I wasn't retaining it. I wasn't retaining what was going on. It kind of, like you said, sounded like changing channels. It was sort of all over the place. And at one point, I stopped myself and I said, I feel like I need to be paying much closer attention to this. People don't just make music like this just for the hell of it. They don't. There's a reason. There's a method behind the madness. Mm-hmm. I stopped playing video games. I listened very, very intently. And when I finished that album, I was blown away by what I'd heard, because his last two albums, Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly, are essentially movies.
I like movies.
Good Kid, Mad City tells a story.
It's starring Wesley Snipes, is it not?
No, it's starring Kendrick Lamar. It tells a story of a young boy growing up in Compton. The boy, it's sort of a coming of age, which you're a big fan of. It's sort of the story of Dope.
Okay.
Kendrick Lamar essentially living his life, meets a girl. And he falls in love with this girl. He can't wait to go see her. But then he finds out that the girl is a part of a rival gang, or not necessarily a rival gang, but a gang. Mm-hmm. And sort of having to navigate all of that. And it really does tell a tale of coming of age, because one of the singles off of that album was a song called Backseat Freestyle. And this is an artist, Kendrick Lamar is an artist who is heralded for how smart he is, how smart his lyrics are, how artistic he is. And one of the first singles on this album was a song about him rapping about how big his dick is. And people were like, what the fuck?
What did I just say about Dave Chappelle?
Right. So people were like, what is this? Why is he doing this? He also had a song called Swimming Pools, which is about him jumping into a swimming pool full of alcohol. And people are like, why is this artistic guy writing these songs about nothing, essentially? In the context of the album, they make 100% sense, because the song Backseat Freestyle, in a slight interlude at the song before, he goes to hang out with his friends, and they get into a car, and he says, hey, does anybody have a beat CD? They put on the CD, and it's him basically rapping, bragging to his friends, like how great it is. The song Swimming Pools talks about one of the first time he ever drinks alcohol, and experiencing that as a kid, and as the first time you're ever drunk, and you don't really understand why people like this so much. It's an incredible story, and it's so much so that I don't want to talk about it too much, because there are spoilers in the story. I mean, it's that great. To Pimp a Butterfly.
So why haven't you sold me on that before?
I've tried, but you don't want to listen.
I don't think you've pitched it that way before.
Are you ready for this? To Pimp a Butterfly
is the sequel.
No, but it's an even better story with an even better twist, that if I told you right now what it was, it would ruin it for you, because when I listened to the story at the very end, I lost my fucking mind. And I was at work. I had to push myself away from my desk.
I thought you took off work for this type of stuff.
No, I don't take off work for Kendrick. That's only Drake. But I threw my headphones off. And I said, holy shit, I cannot believe what he's just done here. It's that crazy of a story that people need to pay attention to.
Do you read along with the lyrics?
I don't. I try to pick up on them. You don't even need the lyric book for this twist, so to speak. To Pimp a Butterfly is not as linear of a story. It's a little bit more interpretive. It sort of tells the tale of Kendrick Lamar becoming famous, getting fame, leaving Compton, and sort of feeling like he has more of a message to tell, like he's living this life of a rapper with success, but he's feeling the need, like he needs to do something for his community. He needs to be there for the community that raised him, Compton, and make more of an impact. Going back to that place and realize that he's just an individual. He can't change the place he came from just as one individual, but as long as he's putting out art, maybe he can change one person's life to make a greater change. And it's a really, really good story. That album is so heralded because of its production value. He brings in a lot of jazz influence. He brings in a lot of really like funk. He brings in a lot of funk music to sort of basically to liven up this art form that a lot of people are doing, and he's sort of bringing something new to it. That album has way less replay value than Good Kid, Mad City.
Okay.
Way less.
I was gonna say, I think I'm gonna like Good Kid, Mad City more.
That's why I like Good Kid, Mad City more. I go back to songs off that album and listen to them much more frequently than I do To Pimp a Butterfly, even though I do think To Pimp a Butterfly is a better story. My challenge to Kendrick Lamar as somebody that critiques music has been to find a happy medium. Be incredibly artistic, tell a crazy creative story, but still be have some mainstream appeal.
Still write songs.
Exactly. Have some mainstream appeal. Get that club banger, but still tell a great story. That's been my challenge. Now, this new album, I have no idea the direction that he's going to go. He sounds pissed off in this song. He calls out people. He is making a statement. He is saying, people are saying, I'm the best rapper alive. And I mean, he's saying that word for word in this song, essentially. We haven't really heard a Kendrick like this in a long time. I mean, maybe his Section 8 mixtape album that he put out when he was a little bit more young and exuberant and had a little bit more bite to him. I'm super anxious to see the direction that he takes with this. I didn't get as much of the jazz and funk vibe from the music itself, but look, I'm excited. What for this album coming out? Now, I know you don't have a lot of experience with his previous albums, but from everything that I'm saying, is there something that you want to hear from Kendrick Lamar on this album that you think you would maybe be sold on? Is it like a hit song? What is it?
I mean, it would be the amalgamation that you're talking about, the club banger that's artistic, because again, I think that's part of why I didn't connect with To Pimp a Butterfly, is because there wasn't a single on it. And again, I haven't listened to
There's no commercial appeal for it, really.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard the song.
I think I need him to be more commercial.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the song All Right before.
I'm sure I have. I don't know it by hearing that, but
yeah, it was a big song that was used with a lot of the protests that were going on in 2015 and even 2016 with cop killings and whatnot. Yeah. It was a kind of an anthem for that. He was ridiculously snubbed by Taylor Swift for Album of the Year.
Right. I remember that
when it came out.
Sure.
But I mean, some of the things that I've talked about, does it sort of pique your interest to sort of study?
I'm going to go home and listen to Kendrick right away, actually.
Are you going to start with Good Kid, Mad City?
Yes.
Awesome.
I'm going to hit pause on More Life.
Is that what we've been listening to a lot?
Yeah, I've been listening to More Life a lot.
Okay, so
I've been listening to Drake a lot in general, and I was very upset to hear Wiley over there at Guideline that he did not like Hotline Bling.
Yeah, for those that don't know,
I'm actually several years late, but I really like Hotline Bling.
For those that don't know, I was on a podcast called Guideline Entertainment. Our boy Wiley Todd, is that his last name?
I don't know.
I think it's at Wiley Todd on Twitter. I can't remember. I don't think he ever told me his last name.
He was VT1717 for a long time.
Yeah.
I think he's changing that up, though.
Yeah, so shout out to him. We kind of dive deep on some stuff there if you want to check that out. But let's transition out of Kendrick. Actually, before we do, I will be doing an album preview the week before that comes out, and I think I'm going to get RB3 for that. He actually asked that we or asked to be on that episode. So I think we're going to get sort of his take on stuff. I know he's a big Kendrick fan as well.
For those of you who don't know, he's an intern at the Schmoes Know show. Most of you in Schmoville already know that, but for those of you who did not.
Absolutely. And how old is RB3?
19?
Is he 19 years old? That's crazy.
I think he's 19.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear his take as well. But we actually had somebody tweet me, I think. I don't know if he tweeted you as well, but they wanted us to talk about the new Gorillaz tracks that just came out. And they're in luck because I actually sort of had that on the rundown already. Who was it that tweeted us here? Not Ryan Martinson. Shout out to you for hitting us up. Is it Ilya Zvetnik at the Screen Geek?
Screen Geek. Okay, yeah.
It was Screen Geek.
Yeah.
He said, can't wait to hear your opinion on the Gorillaz. I'm kind of split right now. All the support for your shows.
Screen Geek's the man.
Look, what is your opinion on the Gorillaz? Because I'm actually fascinated by this because to me, Ryan Snelling thinks this is silly.
So the Gorillaz came out with Feel Good Inc., and that was before I had really.
Was that your first exposure to them?
Yeah.
It wasn't the song Clint Eastwood.
Wasn't that came from the same album though? Did it not?
No, that was like 2 albums before.
How does Clint Eastwood go again?
Doom, 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 doom. I ain't happy. I'm feeling glad
okay.
I got sunshine.
It was about the same time.
No, it wasn't.
No, when I heard it,
okay.
It was the same time together. It was in very early in high school when I heard both of those things. And this was sort of before I had context for alternative styles of music. So when this came out, I had heard the Clint Eastwood song, but Feel Good Inc. was the one that I knew was Gorillaz. And I remember the music video on TRL when that was still a thing, and I didn't understand it.
Okay.
And I know, and I remember the stick, and you might have to remind me that. Do
you know the backstory of Gorillaz?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I does it have to do with the fact that they're always cartoons?
Sort of, but I mean, have you ever heard of the band Blur before?
No.
Okay. Do you know the song? Is it song? Why am I forgetting the name of that song? Song 4? Is that it? He goes, woohoo!
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like that's on like a ton of commercials.
Yes, absolutely. So that is Blur. They're an English rock band, and their singer Damon Albarn is Gorillaz. Okay. So he has this history of being in this band Blur, and he started the band Gorillaz with this animator guy, and he did this whole animated thing. They had this song called Clint Eastwood that came out. I remember watching MTV way back in the day, and it wasn't way back in the day. It was in 2001, my freshman year of high school, and this song comes on, and it's animated, and it's creepy as shit, and it's catchy as hell. I mean, they played this song non-stop. I went and I bought the album, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this album. The album is just self-titled. It's a blend of hip hop and pop, sort of, and alternative. Just a very, very eclectic mix of sounds.
See, when I heard these two things, not only was I not really familiar with this type of music, but I just wrote it off almost immediately. Like, I remember a friend of mine being very into it and being a fan of the Gorillaz, and I just couldn't understand it because I just couldn't get into that music, and so badly, in fact, that I totally forgot that they even existed.
Yeah,
because I have not kept up with them at all.
They've had a long stretch of time off. Their last release, they did a Demon Days live album in 2011, but I think their last actual full length. When was their last actual full length was? Is it the Fall? I don't even know what this is. There's an album called The Fall that came out in 2007, but Demon Days, which is a song.
So they haven't been around this whole time, really.
That's the one with Feel Good Inc. That came out in 2005. So that was.
Yeah.
That's a long
so I said
time
it was
ago.
early in high school.
12 years
for
ago?
me. Yeah. So I was very intrigued.
Let's talk
listen
about
to these 4 songs.
Let's talk about Feel Good Inc. though, real quick. So 2001 to 2005, that's a little bit longer than I would like for albums to come out. That song, Feel Good Inc., when it was on, they play that song so fucking much on the radio that I hated it when it was out. When I revisited that song not that long ago, it might be a perfect song.
I still don't care for it.
That song is so well written.
I still don't like it.
When's the last time you listened to it?
I don't know.
Did you listen to it to prepare for this?
Was it on a Guitar Hero?
It might have been. I have no idea.
I feel like it's on my Guitar Hero playlist on Spotify.
I think that song is great. I love it.
I don't see the big deal.
Here's what I actually agree with you on. I don't know anyone, and I don't get how anyone could be like a diehard fan of Gorillaz.
If I met someone that their favorite band was the Gorillaz, I don't know if I could be their friend.
Is it purely?
I just wouldn't get it.
Is it purely the aesthetic? The fact that they're animated and
I don't have a whole lot of context with their music library, but it's like I think Feel Good Inc. is just so one note and almost dull, like boring might be the word.
It's a pretty straightforward song.
It just if that is, and it pretty much was the first song I ever heard from Gorillaz, it does nothing to make me want to listen to more of that. If that is the case. Now, I'm not saying I don't obviously know if all of their songs are like that, but sort of. But I mean, just how you judge anything. You hear one song from a band, it either makes you want to listen to more or it doesn't. And this one didn't. I don't think it told me anything about the Gorillaz that I liked.
So here's the thing about the Gorillaz that's always fascinated me because I'm not that into them, but a lot of people, especially critically, one of the things that they're often praised for is how diverse their lyrics are in terms of their subject matter. They're obviously on the pop hits, they are what they are, but they get very political from time to time. A lot of social commentary, a lot of commentary about materialism and fame. I don't get that. Maybe I get that. I could get that more on some of the more deep cuts on their albums, but that's just not something I'm privy to as a more just general listener of them. It's been a while. It's been a while since Gorillaz have put out new music, and now we've got a new release coming up called Humans. And the way that they've sort of dropped little things here and there, whether it be a random song or a soundbite or just like a video clip. They're obviously really big into their visual aesthetic with this band, which I can appreciate. I think it's kind of cool. It seems like something that you would do maybe if you had a band, like develop like a fake storyline behind them or something.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay. So they dropped these 4 singles, and even the way they dropped the singles seems to me like it's about the look of the band. I mean, I'm going to hold up my phone right now so you can see how they appear on Spotify.
Right.
Each animated member of the band is the album cover with different colors.
They're the Beatles, but as Gorillaz.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good take. So we've got Saturn Bars featuring Popcon, Andromeda featuring Drum, who I'm a huge Drum fan, Ascension featuring Vince Staples, and We Got the Power featuring Johnny Beth.
So can I be totally honest?
Please.
Listen to all 4 of these songs several times now.
Really?
Yeah. Listen to them a few times over at my house and then again before the show. And let me just say that, for one, I like all the songs.
Okay.
I have no idea when it is and isn't the Gorillaz performing the song.
Okay.
Ever in any of the 4 songs. Partially because I don't know a lot about the featured artist. But again, I have so little context of Gorillaz to begin with. They all feel like they're just interludes to an album. They're so quick, and they're just like a sample size of what the sound might actually be for this particular song, but they're sort of over and done with. And when I get this full album, I feel like these 4 are like the interlude songs. Are all of their songs that kind of quick feeling and short?
No, not always. A lot of them do have fleshed out ideas. You talked about the features. You said you don't know when you hear the Gorillaz. Anytime you hear like clean singing, that's Damon Albarn. That's
okay.
The guy from Blur. He also does all the production in terms of the instrumentation and whatnot. Anytime you hear somebody else, like a rapper or anything like that, that's they are very known for having a lot of feature work in their projects. These features on here, Popcon on Saturn Bars, he actually contributed to the single version of One Dance by Drake.
Oh, okay.
Drum, who put out one of my favorite albums of last year, is in my top 30 album of the year list.
Great Spotify commercial.
Great Spotify commercial. The song Broccoli. People haven't heard the song Broccoli featuring Lil Yachty. It's a great song. It's not about the vegetable. It's about marijuana. Vince Staples, a critical darling. I haven't really dive deep into any of Vince Staples' work, and I have no idea who Jenny Beth is. But these songs, to me, I think they're kind of nothing, to be honest with you. I didn't care about any of them. None of them really stand out to me.
They just feel like samples.
I agree with you. So here's my feelings of Gorillaz as a whole. I actually think Damon Albarn is a fantastic producer. I love his production on things. I like that he brings really interesting and different vibes. I mean, in 2001, some of the production on that first Gorillaz album, like, you wouldn't hear production like that until today. Like, that's how cutting edge some of his production techniques were. Just fantastic. And I do think they are good songwriters. That first songwriter, I think he's a good songwriter. There are really, really good, really well-written songs in that first Gorillaz album. I think, like I said before, I think Feel Good Inc. is a really good song. However, I don't think that they are great at writing good songs consistently. I've never listened to a Gorillaz album from front to back and enjoyed it. I owned the first one and only listened to like 5 songs on it.
On vinyl?
No, not on vinyl. I owned it on CD, and I just didn't care for it. I remember years after Demon Days came out, people talking about how pivotal of an album that was, and listening to it like last year from front to back and being like, this is nothing. Like, I don't think the songs are that great. Maybe I'm missing something.
I was expecting to come on here and like, you love the Gorillaz. Like, I knew that there was a reason that we wanted to talk about them, but I thought that you were going to be the biggest fan of them. And I feel like you and I have very similar opinions, even though you have way more context.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I don't get it. I don't get why. Like I said, I think there are elements of the Gorillaz that are fantastic.
I think I like the story behind it and the shtick of the animation and stuff. I think all of that's kind of cool, but
that's about it for you.
I mean, that might be the coolest thing about them. I think that these 4 songs did them more of a favor as far as bringing me on as a fan. Like, I'm actually interested in listening to this new record, but I have almost zero interest in actually listening to their older stuff. So,
and that's the funny thing about it too, is like, I think you can, like, it would be very easy for somebody to write the Gorillaz off as just being this very artistic project, but a lot of their songs have a lot of pop appeal. Like, they have things about them that, like, you could easily hear any of these songs on the radio, I think, like, as pop songs.
Right.
But none of them achieve that, because I don't think they're very well written songs. Like,
yeah. They
don't have a hook that grabs you. They don't have anything about them that, for me personally, has a re-listenability factor.
What's the hook of Feel Good Inc.? The bass line?
I don't. Yeah.
I don't really think that's that catchy.
We're gonna listen to it after this. The song fucking bumps.
Okay.
We're gonna listen to it on my nice speakers too.
Okay.
But yeah, if there's somebody out there that is a diehard Gorillaz fan, let me know.
Send me your tweets.
Let me know exactly like what it is about them that you absolutely love. Besides, like, if you say they're great live, then you're basically telling me to go see Dark Side of the Moon because of the laser show. Like, it's just not, like, tell me what about the music specifically I should be getting stoked for. But look, we're running on 2 hours here.
Phew.
You're getting anxious because you want to watch your beloved Kentucky Wildcats play basketball.
UK's playing North Carolina right now, and we're late.
Okay, well, look, that's all I've got. Let's plug some things. Tell people where they can find us on the internet, shows and all that stuff.
Guys, if you love what you hear, guys, and girls.
Girl.
Oh, and cats and dogs, like you always say.
One of our comments was cats and dogs.
Oh, really?
On Let's Talk Legion, they were
That's
like,
great.
cats and dogs.
That's
and
great.
Like, that's what you took away from the episode.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you want more Sight and Sound content, especially if you're in Schmoville, you're only getting our weekly episode on the Schmo Plus YouTube channel, but you can see our podcast that shows up where all of our shows are displayed. Please join us. The link will be in the description. You can come hang out with us on our YouTube channel for all of our podcast audio content, but also our video content. Yes, it's only on the YouTube, guys. So definitely check that out. Just search Sight and Sound or find it in the YouTube link or the description, like I said. And please subscribe. We love getting our subscriber count even higher, as most YouTubers do. So please come check out everything Sight and Sound on that YouTube channel and on Twitter at SightSoundPod. And you can follow me on Twitter at WhatUpSnell. Jay Williams.
Facebook.com/SightSoundPod. Did you say that one?
No, because we don't actually use Facebook.
Okay. You can also listen to
fake.
us on the After Schmo, the after show for the Schmoes No Show. That's every single Friday. We're supplementing that content if you watch the Schmoes content. Thank you so much for everybody that's listened so far. You can also follow us on Let's Talk Legion, where we're breaking down Legion. You heard us do it on this episode. You can hear us do it every single week for a few more weeks, but then we're done with that. Guys, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JWilliams, J to the A to the Y to the E. It's the same for both. Did you give your
I did.
Twitter, Instagram?
I did.
Okay.
I don't need to give it. I never give out my Instagram, but I did my Twitter.
Okay. Well, that's it. That's all we got. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.